Welcome to the third round of the British Motocross Championship, being held at Howe down near Darlington. We're down the flat this week. Last week we're up on the edge of the Pennines, and my goodness, what a change of conditions yet again. Looks like the fog might come down on what is a very, very long course. Big agricultural, full of very interesting jumps, and the water splash as well to make it lively for them. Talking water, when we last did the 500 at Hawkston Park, it was a very, very wet conditions, and Thorp was in all sorts of trouble because up till then he'd not been beaten in 20 rides. But he's in fine form right now. I got with me Graham Knight, who has the up-to-date results and the position that Thorp is over on the World Championship. Graham, it looks a chance for him to go on and collect some more points today?
Yes, certainly. He's leading the group at the moment, 95 points. Kurt Nichols in second place, and that's 22 points on 73. And there are two men who hold the third place equal. They're on 63. Now, one of those two won't be adding to his total today since Jem Watley's broken his right wrist, and that's for a second time this season at the Grand Prix in Luxembourg a couple of weeks ago. He did a similar damage to that same wrist while he was away in America, and it looks as if Jem's going to be resting up for the remainder of the season. The other third place taken by Dave Watson, also on 63 points. And it's the young Mark Banks, who's not finished outside the first three this season. He's breathing hot on the rear wheels of Watson, who's on 57 points. So it's a very interesting lineup that we've got, and certainly Thorpe is showing his usual form.
Well, yes, because Thorpe's got a few scores to settle here in the British Championship. When we went out to Hawkston in the first round, he had a second, in fact 2 seconds and a first. That was unusual for him to be beaten in the British Championship because he's the reigning man and he had 20 out of 20 races success so far. Moved on to the second one. He, in fact, on the first leg in the second of these championships, he was in 7th place. And he couldn't do any better in round 2 or 3 either, because he had a third and a second as well. So today I'm sure he wants to show that he's going to win this thing in fine style. And up there on the gate, and there they go up towards that tight left-hander at the top of the course. It's a very good start. Some of them are very tight indeed and short, but this one is a good long one, and they're all safely around that top of the course, the highest point of what is a fairly flat course here at Howe Hills. Are they coming on down it now? Then we'll soon see who's picking up the lead, because Thorpe's got to make a good start here, because there's a lot of passing paces early in the part of this race. The 25 minutes they're going to race for, plus 1 lap on this very, very long course indeed. And they look like number 34, Mark Banks, has made an extremely good start, it is. Mark is in superb form. He won 3 of his events in Paris just a week ago, so he's come here with his tail up after those 3 successes in Paris. He's going to ride the World Championship next year as young Mark. He's only, what, just 17 turned 18 now, and a very famous son of a famous father, and he went over that jump in fine style.
It was Willie Simpson in second place, and he's the number 5 man. You see them going over the Yamaha jump there. Now that is one of the man-made events over the stream. They'll go back across that stream in just a moment. This is a fairly level course. There are some undulations, but at some points the ground is very, very uneven, and you'll see the men standing out of the saddles in order that they don't get their backside battered, because the bike does do some up and downing. And this is a particular dip. Now this is going down into a railway cutting, very steep, 45-degree angle. They drop away, run along the bottom of the bank for about 50 yards, and then reappear just to the left of our screen. And all of those men going down very steep, very, very wet at the bottom, about 18 inches in some places. Up the top they come again, and that should still be Mark Banks. We expect him to come round number 34, yes, and it was Dave Thorpe in 4th place, we understand. So Mark Banks certainly leading things round, and the third man is still that Willie Simpson, number 5. No, Willie Simpson's moved up into 2nd place there. Willie is chasing Mark Banks. Now there's those undulations I was telling you about. It really is some very, very hard work on the arms and the legs, and they hit those again a little later on, and there are some nasty little foxholes coming around as well.
So that's Thorpe now up into 3rd place. He had a bad start, he's got 3rd. He put the power on rather strong then, and the back end swung out, and I don't think he liked that at all, as now he's trying to take up that 2nd place off Simpson. Thorpe looking good, lying in 3rd place at the moment. It's a very bumpy track, he nearly lost it then. They've really got to sort themselves out here on this circuit, because it's been laid out where there's been a lot of grass and hasn't been used recently for motocross, so they're slipping and sliding around, and these bumps haven't got the usual ruts that we see very often in motocross, and it's probably one of the most undulating in forms of corrugation that I've seen so far then. Would you agree with that, Graham?
Absolutely right. It is working them very hard indeed. You said it was slippy. When they first came for practice this morning, it was about 12 inches deep in thistles. They've managed to clear all those away now, but nonetheless the ground is still very, very slippy, and they've been testing that out quite a lot this morning. There's been a lot of rain, which has laid on the surface quite a lot, but I think that's kept the dust down and certainly helped things along. There's Thorpe picking his way down into that foxhole near the beginning of the course, and that is quite a deceptive one. There's water in the bottom of that. There we see number 5 going through again, Willie Simpson. There's very little opportunity to actually give them chance to pass on this course, it seems. They're stretched out over this 1.25 mile course, and it really does stretch them out. The first 5 positions we have at the moment, with Mark Banks in first place. We've got Willie Simpson second, Dave Thorp in third place. In fourth place, it's Dave Watson, who was 5th in the World Championships and looking very good on it too. And in 5th place at the moment, we've got Willie Simpson.
So there they go, these riders. Kurt Nicholl.
Kurt Nicholl, yes.
Yes, because Willie Simpson is out there in second place. And talk about those thistles. I think they ought to have left him out here, because isn't it something to do with the Scots love the old thistles? That's part of the national emblem, isn't it? So it's his course. He's going well. He's looking good at the moment. Willie Simpson, who comes all the way from Balmullo up in Scotland, rides on Husqvarna. And that's interesting. He's got amongst the Japanese machines, because Thorp's on the Honda, and he's chasing after number 34, and Banks, who's also on a Honda. So we've got a bit of Honda sandwich here, and in that second slot, Willie Simpson on Husqvarna. 0.6 in the world last year, knows his way around. He's looking in good form at the moment, and still Banks on the front of this little lot. This young man has got a lot of talent, and we are hoping and cheering this year that Dave Thorp will run out as world champion. And what a lot of talent is coming through behind him, because that man Banks out in front at the moment then, and looks like Thorp's going to try and get past Simpson. He's put the power on, but no, he's much too bumpy. He couldn't keep the back wheel down, couldn't keep the power on, and he's dropped back, and he's still in third place. They must really have to work out where to take the rider in front on this course. It is just too bumpy for them to get any speed at all. Amazing with these 500s here, and it'll be interesting when we get to the Pirelli, because we also got this afternoon on the programme a support racer. Simpson has got on the outside, left a gap now. Can he get through? He's trying to get up on the inside. Thorp's trying to find a gap to come through, but he can't quite make it. And he's made it this time. He put the power up the hill. That's where it really helped. He went straight past, but Simpson's come on his inside, because having gone up the hill, Thorp had too much power and had to swing out, and I think it then took Simpson a chance to get through, and he's going up again, having another go. Absolutely tremendous there, Graham.
Mark was saying earlier on this morning just how much he enjoys riding the 500s. He says that they really are powerful. It's fantastic to be able to be on them and really roar out ahead of the pack if you can. He says a little bit too much power and they bite you back, he said, but look at the way he's controlling that bite at the moment. The teeth really are well under control. A really exciting race. That foxhole is quite deceptive. It's quite deep down there and can catch the riders unawares if they're not careful. Thorpe still in the third place position. We were actually talking about Kurt Nicholl in fifth place, because he won all of the events in the last 500cc, and he won't like being in that place. And look, we've finally got Thorpe through into first place. Thorpe is through into second place now. He's taken over from the Simpson, and there's Mark, who really is extending himself now over that Yamaha jump down towards the Honda jump. And first we have Honda, then we've got Dave Thorp going around the bends into the section of trees. A lot of this on the level, which is quite deceptive, because although it looks as if they can get the opportunity to actually ride ahead, there isn't much opportunity of overtaking them. As you've seen, those corrugations really do sort them out.
Well, interesting they go up out of sight now, Graham, because I see Simpson's dropped back quite a bit, and as they go towards the railway cutting on the far side there, this may be the opportunity then for Dave Thorp to get up to young Banks, because Mark Banks set a good start, but he hasn't managed to keep the gap sufficiently, because Thorpe's closed up on him. But it's Simpson that's gone out into third, and he hasn't quite held on to his one. That's going to be interesting now. We've got the up-and-coming world champion trying to get up with the up-and-coming young man there, Mark Banks, who I'm sure will be a world champion. When he's taken him on the inside, he's found a spot to go through, but Banks has opened the throttle again. That left the bikes bucking and bouncing around the place, and he saw him off. He realised that he got company, went up alongside. This man wearing number 1, Dave Thorp, last year's British champion, this year chasing the world champion. He's chasing about Mark Banks, and he held him up in superb style.
Mark Banks has only ridden here once before, and yet he's got the measure of those corrugations completely. He really has. Following the outside line, having to push themselves over there, which is where Thorpe tried to overtake last time, not being successful this time, and really, nearly ticking over there. Little bit too much extra power on the throttle. On the outside line, they're trying to leave those corrugations alone as much as possible, and you can see how they're still clearing the grass surface, still picking their way through that. Thorpe doesn't seem to be in command of things quite as much as Banks is, and again tries to close in on that bend. And really, Banks does seem to know this course so well, and yet he's only been here once before. Isn't it quite remarkable? Look at the way he's putting the power on down there.
I wonder, in fact, whether Thorpe is patient enough to stay in second place, while he doesn't like being beaten. We must remember that he's in the midst of a very, very hectic programme. When he came back from last Sunday, when he was racing in Luxembourg, the Sunday before that he had been racing in Belgium, and about 2 Sundays before that he'd been racing in the British Grand Prix down at Farley Castle. So in the space of something like about 5 weeks, he's had some very, very tiring rides indeed, and not only have they been tough rides, but a lot of travelling involved. And when you're travelling across the channel backwards and forwards, then that's extremely tiring for this rider who's been chasing the World Championship. And Banks here has also been overseas, but I don't think he's got quite the same problems that Thorp has got to go overseas, and he goes across to learn all the way. Thorp goes over there to win, and whilst he's in the British Championship at the moment, with the points scored he's got 95 points. Kurt Nichols got 73. Mark Banks overall, when we set off today, was down in 5th place with 57 points. He's probably worked out in his head that if Ronnie sticks with Banks, he's no great challenge overall.
I think also he wants to keep himself in good condition for that final. To have an accident or to have anything happen to him here when he's 358 points out in the World Championship would be a disaster. This man we're watching, even in second position, is the man who we all say is going to be the next world champion, and that means a great deal to motocross, and we want to see that man stay on his fight. Let's have a look at those positions now. 34, Mark Banks leading at the moment, and a tight tussle going on with Thorp really right on his heels now. Is this an opportunity for him to get through? No, Banks pulls away yet again. Thorp in second position, the number 8 man Dave Watson, who was 5th last time. Yes, and finally Thorp gets himself through on the other side. Has he judged these corrugations? No, Banks has done it again. Banks knows the right way around those corrugations, and Thorp does not know. He keeps coming on the other side. He'll have to follow Banks' line and maybe take it on the side. Takes the rip-off shield there. A lot of mud spattered on his windshield. Throws one of his visors away. Tries again. They really are pushing it very hard here. And it seems that Banks does have that edge. Thorp taking it much wider on the outside there. The back end swinging round, but with no problems at all. And here we are, neck and tuck again. And will Thorp take it on the back? They really are pushing each other very hard indeed. Thorp swapping sides to see if he can get round him. Still Banks takes it on that bend.
And we were looking at the overall results then while the little battle was going on. Unfortunately, Willie Simpson's dropped right down the leaderboard now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 overall. I hope he hasn't made a problem because 6th he's dropped to. Willie Simpson having set a very, very fast pace to begin with. Interesting to see that Thorp tried to take Banks in exactly the same place on that lap as he did on the previous one. So there must be very few passing places at the moment, or perhaps he's sussed out that's one place that Banks leaves a gap and he can get through. And he's got to find another way now to catch up with Banks. There's a good gap between them because Simpson, who had originally been in second place, then third, has disappeared off the leaderboard right down into 6th. That's left a big gap now, and they went round in 2 minutes 28 seconds on the last lap. Still the same position there. Number 34 Banks leading Dave Thorp, and Thorp just can't seem to get in between him with, yes, he's having another go now, but they're going to turn down to the right and drop over the top of this jump. Oh, they went nearly shoulder to shoulder, side, and Thorp's got up on the inside. Banks took the line one round the outside, but Banks has come back in. It's a nice S-bend, and he's got back in front again, just by a stiff of Nats whisker, and so Thorp's got to try once more. These S-bends, they go straight across them, and right down there, they've got to get the thing down to first gear, because that nearly brought them to a grinding halt, and they turn sharp right then. Heading off now, they go out over the Honda lead. These two Honda boys are really hammering along.
This really is fantastic for them to be looking over their shoulders like that. Banks checked him as they almost came to a halt there. Quite remarkable. Down into the dip now, down into that railway cutting. No lines anymore, only the lines that the tyres have left, and they leap about. Look how quickly they come out there. And still Banks is coming round, and Thorp is still chasing him. It is so close. This is really exciting. Putting a bit of extra power on there, lifting the front wheel. That's not economic, but nonetheless it keeps him in front, and that's all he cares about. Very close down, his foot stretched right out, and again Thorp trying to take him on that bend. Will he go on the outside? No. Into the tree line and through. And now we're coming up towards some more areas where he's tried it in the past. Has he found a different line? Still that same line, and this time will he do it? He reckons it's right until there, and that's the point he makes the mistake. And Banks is taking the wider line and keeps it on the outside. Thorp will really have to come across to the other side if he wants to try it there.
That part of the course looks to me it has been used before, actually, Graham, because there's a lot of ruts, and they get in those two ruts, they choose a rut, and now they're onto parts of the course that haven't been used before, and they're trying to suss out the fastest line. So probably there's got to be a change of tactics here for Dave Thorp. He hasn't found the best one yet to go past Banks, who really, don't take it away from this young lad. He's riding like a man possessed, and it isn't often that anybody can get out in front of Dave Thorp, whether he's on British or foreign soil, and he's doing it in fine style. And the crowd here really enthusiastic about this battle between these two Brits who are up there amongst the world leaders.
Well, the wonderful thing, of course, is to see a world champion in the making racing at home, and that is the fabulous thing that we're watching at the moment. We really have got some high-quality riders because, of course, there are 3 others on this course who are all in the top 5 in the championships, which is so great. Kurt Nichol, who's riding number 4 and currently in 4th place at the moment. Dave Watson, who's riding 8, and he's just 1 place in front of him. All of those men notched in the first 5 for the world championship, so we are seeing the best of the riders, and they're slowing right down now. Thorp still on the tail, and he doesn't like to see the tail there of Mark Banks.
Locked together yet again. Well, I'm still thinking of possibly Thorp. He's just put his hand up to his goal. Looks like he's going to take one of these rip-offs away, because a lot of mud coming up today. The course rather wet and it's rather flat, and when they drop down over that Yamaha jump, and that's the one there, they pick up a lot of mud on those tyres and throw it all over the place. It really is gun city as they go around that part of the course, chucking mud everywhere, and it looks to me as if already they're beginning to catch up with some of the back markers. Now this is going to be always a problem in motocross when they get amongst the tail enders and the line you want has already been occupied by somebody up in front. That sharp right hand that just come through, it might be the one at Farley Castle when Dave Thorp was trying to get past Malair, but he's been very good at coming to a standing stop and coming out of it, but that is not a big enough climb after that sharp right-hander for Banks to put the power on, and Thorp to put the power on and go past Banks. So the leader still there is number 34, Mark Banks, in 2nd place, Dave Thorp.
And it seems as if Kurt Nichol is doing some work in the what was 4th place, now moved up to 3rd place, so he's pushed Dave Watson 1 back, and Dave won't be pleased about that. Greg Hansen is holding on to the 5th position, and number 10, Andy Nichols, is 6th. We've got a new man coming in at 8, but let me tell you who's 7th, just squeezing the between, and that's number 5, and that's Willie Simpson. The new man in an 8th position is number 22, and again those corrugations, this time has Thorpe got the measure of it. No, Banks does it again. And it really is neck and neck. Look at that, wheel to wheel. Yes, he's done it. He's taken the inside line. He may not have been very happy about that, but Thorpe is finally out in front. Now it's Banks' turn to fight it back.
I don't think Banks is going to get without a real struggle, because he didn't like the way that Thorpe came inside, took his line, and virtually stopped him from going round. So he's got through him again! Oh, Banks has got through Thorpe, and Thorpe's got through Banks. Well, this really is change about. He took the chance to go through to Banks, but Thorpe got back again. And there the 3rd place man is way out of sight at the moment. Kurt Nichol doesn't seem to have a chance of getting to this flying twosome at the front. Now, can Thorpe show us that he was only hanging about behind Banks, waiting for a chance to take the lead? Because sometimes it happens in motocross is that once you've gone past the man in front, there are stretches of the course where he wasn't going quite as fast as you think you could, and he was on your line, and that's what's going to happen now. Will Thorpe then get on the line that Banks was taking, and will he then open up? Because today, with it so muddy, they'd have to take 2 separate sides of the course to stay out of muck, but Banks is still with him, so we haven't seen any of the speed of this man Thorpe yet. Has he found a better line? And we'll soon know. We've got about half a lap, I think, to see if he can drop Banks out of his mud.
We're over halfway in the 25 minutes plus 2 laps, and really the fighting has to carry on this way right the way through until the end. And as you said, Kurt Nichol really has been left behind. These 2 men have split the field completely. And over that lead, Thorpe leapt away, and look at the distance he's opening up now. I think you were right about holding back on the throttle, but Mark Banks has really put up a superb fight. There's Kurt Nichol going through in 3rd place, Thorpe showing him the way around now, and those corrugations should be no problem at all. Although they have to slow down and get their way around that very gently indeed, Thorpe really does seem to have the race in his control now. Banks following along. The last lap again, they're very consistent in the time they're doing. Again, 2 minutes and 28 as they disappear into the railway cutting again. It takes them only a few seconds before they reappear at the top of the bank, and then onto those corrugations.
So you can always set your watch on these 2, just shows how regular they are. Well, I've got a suspicion that Thorpe may be slightly faster of the 2. We haven't seen him do 1 full lap on his own yet, because he had a tussle with Banks. That does sometimes speed things up a bit, but he's got back to him, Banks. So far he's not found a sufficient straight part of this course, Thorpe, to see if he's got any more power in that motor. And Banks is trying to go up on the outside. This is where Banks and Thorpe keep challenging each other, and Banks tried to Thorpe on that one. That's the inside overtaking, and he's done it! He's done it because somehow Thorpe couldn't hold that bucking bike, and Banks has got back. And the spectators on that part of the course are going to witness now another attempt there, and he got through. Thorpe has come. This is where he took him last time round, so he's now got virtually 1 full lap. But I don't think that this is all over by the shouting yet, because Banks showed that he could come through. Thorpe had to come through again, and now the race is really on. Off goes another rip-off goggles, and it's Banks chasing Thorpe.
The power that's in the bike is really wonderful to see when they suddenly open their throttle wide, and despite those corrugations, they really are flying over the top of them. Just look at the way they're controlling the bikes over the top of that. The dips and undulations there, the drops sometimes are 12, 14 inches deep. It is deceptive on the camera, and they are very deep indeed. Just going through the start, and that line they're just about to go across is the finishing line, and so that's what we should be looking for when those checkered flags go out. The boards from the pits telling them the progress so far, telling them the consistency of their riding, 2.28, and there we see Thorp leading the way down. They know this course very well indeed. Mark Banks challenging yet again. Will they take him on this bend? Will he come round? No, Banks swinging wide, following Thorp's tail round as we go through this time, and slowing down, but again into the foxhole and out, another area where they leapt out side by side when they went across the Yamaha jump, and a time perhaps just to see the splendour of this riding. Look at the wonderful way they control those bikes. Really exciting stuff. Thorp's foot stretched straight out in front. You can see the silver tip of the boot there, the boot just stopping any undue change of direction. Really remarkable riding by the two of these men. They really are exciting to watch.
I think we're getting here is a very good view of the suspension, because setting suspension up for this particular course has been quite a nightmare for the mechanics and the riders. In the practice this morning, they're out there checking what they would need, because it is so much corrugated and so up and down, getting the suspension right, because they've got to ensure that these things won't bounce too much up and down on those undulations, but also it drops down to maintain the maximum traction. A tremendous amount of work has been done by these riders, get everything balanced up for the event, make sure the tyre pressures are correct. Fortunately, the rain has kept off now throughout this race. We're expecting, according to the forecast, a beautiful British summer day. Well, we certainly got one. The clouds are down, and any time it's going to rain now. And of course, if it did rain on this circuit, it's likely to get extremely slippy. So everybody's been anxiously looking up at the sky and checking tyre pressures and checking the stroke of these shock absorbers, because this is a very difficult, very interesting course, and extremely tiring. There's certainly going to be some tired people when they go home tonight after this one. There we go, he's trying to come. This is where they've tried before to come up on the inside. Banks, for some reason, lying off. Perhaps he's found another place at the top of the hill, can come in on the inside. That's the one where they've tried it. No, he's missed it now. So the chasing, we got the third place man coming into sight, and that was Kurt Nickel. One of those two leaders disappeared from our side. Well, he's lost his feet altogether. Now, the others at least are keeping their feet on the footrests. These footrests are cut down, very small ones. There's not much room to get grip. When you get mud on your feet, then that's difficult over a bumpy part like that.
I must admit, when I was watching Kurt Nickel in practice today, he was not happy with his bike at all. There were problems in setting up, and he doesn't seem as if he's resolved them even now. He should not be that... Oh, who's pulled back? Mark Banks has stopped. Thorp must be way out in front, and we've got number 34, Mark Banks, is out. What has happened? He must have taken a spill by the amount of mud that spattered over the front of him, and have we had a spill? He can't get his bike going, and that is a real shame. Thorp now must be leading well away. Kurt Nickel went by default, and that must be very sickening for Mark Banks, who for some reason that we didn't see has stopped. That means now that Thorp is way out in front. Kurt Nickel, I was saying, was having problems, has gone in second place, but just look at the gap between them and the rest of the field. I didn't see anybody else go by in that time. They really have opened a gap up on the rest of the course.
That shows the speed of these leading two in the way in which nobody could stay with them. It gave Banks time to recover. By the looks of his leathers, there was mud all up his thigh on the right-hand side. His front mudguard was skewed over, and I would suggest that was a right-hander. It looked like he dropped it on the right-hand side, and unusually enough for these chaps, he got the engine cut out, and that caused him some time to restart it. Normally they can keep the engine still going. He lost it then, but he's back in the action, and he's dropped down to 4th place now. Great disappointment for Banks. He must get back up and try and pick some extra points, and perhaps from Thorp's point of view, some of the pressure's gone off him.
That really is a shame. It was Dave Watson who stole the 3rd place. I didn't see the number 8 man go through, but he did, and there he is. That's the 3rd place man now, and of course Mark Banks has taken up 4th place. But just look at the gap they must have opened up on the field, that he only lost those 2 places. The rest of the field are nowhere to be seen, and it is a very difficult course to pass on, as you've been seeing from Dave Thorpe and Mark Banks, who's just going through now, much slower, picking his way through. And we watched the number 11, or no, number 12, that must have been Perry Leask who went through there. Mark Banks coming through very gently. I just confirmed that that was Perry Leask. Doesn't look like it actually. It was a green one, which must mean it was a Kawasaki, and of course Perry's on a Suzuki, which is a bright yellow. I can't miss that one.
So, will Banks be able to get up and pinch an extra few points? Because he was setting such a tremendous burst of speed before. I would think he's probably somewhat faster than both Watson and Nickel, but he could have been shaken by that fall, and that's always a problem when you go down, that you can upset your rhythm, and it doesn't look he came off on a part of the course where he'd like to break or bust anything personally, but it would have thrown him out, and sometimes, of course, there can be damage to the bike when it drops down, and the levers can be bent, or you can have a little bit of problem with the steering. It looks to me now as if number 4, Kurt Nickel, is coming to the part of the course he doesn't like very much, and that will be interesting for Banks, because when we get these very, very stiff corrugations, then that's a chance, I think, to Banks to close some of the gap.
Look at the way that the forks are going up and down there. Yes, there's the man going through, number 8. He's the man who's taken the 3rd place. That's Dave Watson that we're watching. Dave Watson's not been doing badly at all, and at Luxembourg just recently he was 5th overall, so he must be very pleased with his position in the World Championships. And certainly we are seeing another very good rider. Let's not take anything away from any of the other riders in this event. It's just that Dave Thorp really does leave everybody standing. I know Danny Chandler has said that he just leaves them for dead. There's the number 10 man. It was Andy Nichols, who I couldn't identify properly earlier on, and he must be in 5th position now. So we've got Dave Thorp way out in front with just 2 minutes to go. The 2nd place man now is Kurt Nickel. In 3rd place, Dave Watson. In 4th place, because of that spill, Mark Banks, and in 5th place, Andy Nichols.
Well, I think as we've now gone past the 23 minutes point and Thorpe is way out on the circuit, we should probably see the 1 lap to go board on the next lap. The gap, I was looking at it between Banks and Watson, is enormous, and he seems to be losing ground, so perhaps he may have had some mechanical problems when he came off and can't really put the pressure on, and will have to be satisfied, I think, to finish in 4th place. But Banks had to watch it, because the gap between himself and Andy Nichols was very tight indeed, and some good stuff following on behind. Jeff Mays, the veteran himself, is up to 6th place. That's quite a turn up for the books, and Greg Hansen is behind him in 7th. And then in 8th place we've got Willie Simpson, who seems to have recovered from a problem which must have pushed him out of that 3rd place he was sitting in so well. He dropped way down to the bowl, Willie, and we look forward to seeing him in the 2nd leg this afternoon, because we've got 3 legs of racing for these big 500s. 1, 2 and 3 legs before we decide who's got all the points to add to the overall score at the end of this championship. The overall leader then being Dave Thorpe, finding in fine style now with no pressure on him at all. The British fans here being treated to the side of this expert on 2 wheels, who looks so stylish now. He hasn't got the presence of Banks right up his exhaust pipe. He's going over there with his feet nicely on those footrests, just showing how it can be done. And oops, there goes the power. That is Style himself, Mr. Style, moving up, picking up a lap man. Gentlemanly saying come on through, because they've probably just got this 1 lap and a bit to go.
That's Rob Hooper who is lapping now. I'm quite surprised about it, but since the gap they've opened is so wide, Rob Hooper on the Kawasaki number 21 is the man that Thorpe has just gone by. As we look back at Kurt Nickel, and just look at the way the forks are going up and down on those undulations, and look at the monoshock in the rear. Just watch the rear end up and down. You can see the distance that the mudguard is travelling, and the amount of spring that they have to put in there really is quite remarkable pressure that's going on the bikes. These will have to be cleaned down after the event, sprayed down, check that there are no damaged sections, and cleaned out just to make sure that everything's okay for heat 1 and then on to heat 2 and 3, because of course anything can happen, and we've seen in the championships just how much problems can occur and how things can change. Dave Thorpe really has slowed down to a comfortable pace now. He can afford to ease back. He's so far ahead of the rest of them that it really is no competition for them now. Taking it very steady indeed. What a stylish man he is. A little bit of extra throttle there just to get him over the jump.
Yeah, it's noticeable when he's going over those jumps now. He's not taking it quite so far, because coming down the other side, there's one place you can lose control, and therefore he's going to bring it down without losing too much time and keeping as close to the ground. Yes, that gap looks like it's closing somewhat between himself and Kurt Nickel, but there isn't enough there with this 1 lap. We think we'll probably get towards the 1 lap to go, that this will be impossible for Nickel to catch up. Nickel, though, will be quite happy there on his KTM, and it's good to see the KTM boys in that 2nd place and challenging the Japanese to supremacy as he leaps across the Yamaha leap on his KTM.
That bike going through wasn't, of course, Thorpe. That was the 21 man. That's the tail ender. So Kurt Nickel about to lap one of the men. And Thorpe has got quite a lead, some 4 or 5 seconds between them at least. And that is a gap that's unlikely to change. The 2-lap board for the leader will be on the next time round we go through, and you'll be able to see that mark going up. And then Thorpe will realise that he's fairly nearly home and dry, but of course it's not the time to allow to relax too much, because that's when mistakes can happen.
Well, we've seen that in the past so often in motocross, which is what makes it such an interesting sport. We get the experts here who are looking for all the fine detail of these riders, but the family turn out as well, because all around the course you can move around and see these riders in action, and different techniques for different parts of the course, and the opportunity of them making a mistake at some point, because nobody likes to see anything go wrong. But on the other hand, the skill of these riders can be checked and looked at, and if somebody just makes a mistake, then suddenly from first to back you can find yourself losing a lot of ground, as we saw Banks when he came off.
We can see the pressure that's going on the arms when they go on these undulations, and this is the sort of problem, of course, that the riders have to put up with. It's one of the problems and reasons that Jem Whatley's not riding here today. He broke his arm in America and broke it again at the last event he was at, and has now rested for the season, and the pressure that is on their body at this time is quite incredible. Merv Anstey's hurt himself in a similar way and damaged a bone in his spine because of the power, the shock that is going to the body, and so any chance to take a rest and still keep the lead is a satisfying position for Dave Thorp to be in. Going through and preparing himself for the final stages now, the 2-lap marker there as we saw go through, and Dave Thorp in the closing stages now. As long as he stays upright, the first race is his.
So these riders not only racing in England and Europe during our summer, they, in fact, many of them go overseas into New Zealand or Australia for their summer, which is our winter, to keep fit and do a lot of training over there and teaching for some of the younger riders and bringing them on. But it doesn't mean they get much rest. And as Graham was saying, the bones that get broken and the injuries they do receive, they have to try and give themselves some time to recover. And the rest of the problem that Jem Whatley's got following that accident, it could put him out for quite a long time, because there's no way the surgeons can get to it and repair it, which will be a great shame, because he's been going extremely well in the 125cc championships that we've been covering, and so we are going to lose one of our star performers.
Well, the point system at the moment is 95 points with Dave Thorp, and with a win here, that means he'll have 20 points to add on to that, which will make him very handsome indeed. Jem Whatley was standing third place equal in the British Championships in the 500cc on 63 points. It's unlikely that he's going to come back. The rumour in the pits today was that he was going to rest for the end of the season, because it was more likely he would do more damage to himself, and at this stage of the season it's better that he stays out and lets his wrist repair. But Dave Thorp will be very happy with the 20 points that he's going to earn on this. Kurt Nickel will be getting himself 17 points, and that'll add very nicely to the figure that he already has, which is 73, so he'll be doing very nicely, thank you very much, with that, taking him up to 90, and still very much in contention with 2 heats to go here.
And still the fine style of Dave Thorp. He's got that little climb that we saw him battling with Banks to contend with now, but yet again no company. And it looks to me, actually, Graham, this is in one of those depressions, it seems to be filling up with a lot of water or some stuff that is very mobile. It's not hard earth by any means. They drop into it. Looks very wet indeed. This course seems to keep water as if there is almost a little well facility putting it up. It's amazing to me as I walk round that one or two areas are so full of pools of water.
Yes, that's right. I walked round this morning and I put my boot in to see just how deep those were, and I got a wet sock for my trouble. So some of them are about 18 inches, and it's that water that's causing the problems. If they've got the motion across the top of them, they're okay. They're flying across some of them, but the slower they pick it, the more likely they are to dip into it. We just had the marker board to see how their positions are, with Dave Thorpe still first, second place Kurt Nickel, third we've got Dave Watson, and fourth the number 10 man Andy Nichols, and Mark for some reason now has slipped back to fifth position. So whatever that spill did to him, it must have shaken him up, and he's decided to stay back. The sixth place man Willie Simpson is close on his tail, and in seventh position we've got number 17, that's Greg Hansen, and Rob Hooper is the tail ender, but of course although he's in that position, he's lapped, and we're watching the final lap now of the leader Dave Thorpe, the number 1 man and the future 500cc world champion.
Yeah, I thought that Banks was going rather slowly when we had one of the long shots about 3 or 4 minutes ago, and it was obvious that Andy Nichols was getting closer to him. One just has to hope that, considering we've got another 2 legs to go, that Banks is only shaken by that, or perhaps any mechanical problem with his bicycle can be sorted out so that he comes back in fine form, because he certainly had the makings of giving this man Thorpe a run for his money right the way through the race. But Thorpe is head and shoulders in front of anybody else now. He's got some beautiful tactics, and it's because he's got a very expensive bike, about 50,000 quid's worth of Honda down there for him to ride round on, and the Honda boys this year have got it right, although interesting to see how the KTM now are closing the gap. Kurt Nickel on a bike which is getting more and more competitive.
Is it any wonder that this man is in contention with his colleague on Honda for the World Championship? And is it any surprise that the man is also leading the British Championship at the moment on 95 points? We're watching the leader. We're watching Dave Thorpe coming round for the final time. He can't possibly make a mistake now that can stop him seeing that checkered flag. And yet another man to be lapped. Will he do that before he takes that flag? It's just a matter of form for him now as he picks his way carefully, very steadily round. No last-minute mistakes as he finds his way. He knows every groove and every tuck and mark for it now.
Yes, we saw him then just missing that stake on the sharp right-hander with his grip, because it's quite easy if you just go a bit too slowly to get the bike round and catch the handlebar on the stakes on the edge of the course. We've seen that happen before now and spin the bikes round, just going wide of that one, thank goodness, picking up yet another of the back markers. And remember, he's sort of cruising around in first place, and he's just about, he's at number 28 in there. Looks like Gary Woolham on his Suzuki from Woking, and he's picking him up now, allowing a good line on the inside. See the two different styles. It looks to me as if he's going to have that trouble-free run you were saying, because the finishing line is not far from us now, and he's coming through then triumphantly. Then people are happy to see Dave Thorp come in first place. That's what they've come to see, the star in action on this first leg.
Gary Woolham going through, but the man we want to see passing the finishing line, Dave Thorp, taking the checkered flag, and he's our winner for the first heat, the first leg. And in second place, Kurt Nicol, number 4. In third place, Dave Watson, number 8. And to be confirmed, I think we have Andy Nichols in fourth place. There's the number 2 man. What a gap there was.
The result has been confirmed. First was Dave Thorp. In second place, number 4, Kurt Nicol. In third place was Dave Watson. And up into fourth place was Andy Nichols, and a fine ride by Willie Simpson, who finally got himself into fifth place.
Riders coming to the line now for the third leg of the British Championship, fourth round of the British Championship here at Newbury. A nostalgic moment, because this in fact represents the last motorcycle event to take place on this land after some 20 years of both